such as fishermen, farmers, and artisans. They left everything to follow their master. Witnesses of the resurrection of Jesus were called to spread the gospel around the world. However, their testimony was not without challenges. They faced persecutions and martyrdoms due to their faith, sacrificing their lives out of love for Christ. Their deaths were not from natural causes. Each one is a striking testament to their loyalty to the Master and the extreme cruelty that humanity can inflict on one another. If you are curious about the fate of the 12 apostles, think you know how they died, you are utterly mistaken. Their lives and deaths are shrouded in mystery, controversies, and macabre narratives. In this video, I will explore all the details recorded in the Bible, as well as the information reported by the church and historians. Therefore, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and watch this video until the end. John the Apostle. Beloved John the Apostle is a central and mysterious figure in biblical narratives. He was the son of Zebedee and Salome, and the brother of James, also an apostle. His story is marked by a unique closeness with Jesus, often described as the disciple whom Jesus loved. This special relationship provided John with a unique vision of the events and teachings of Jesus. Known for his spiritual sensitivity and profound understanding, John was extremely important in transmitting the teachings of Jesus. He was present in crucial moments, such as the Transfiguration and the Last Supper, where he reclined next to the Master. After the death of Jesus, John played a crucial role in the early Christian community in Jerusalem. He witnessed the ascension of Christ and was a vital link among the apostles. However, the fate of John is shrouded in mystery and symbolism. John suffered various persecutions, mainly directed by Emperor Domitian, due to his preaching of the gospel in Ephesus. According to tradition, John was captured, tortured, and then thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil. However, God miraculously preserved his life, and he did not suffer any harm. In light of the miracle, the emperor decreed that he be exiled to the island of Patmos, which functioned as a prison in the empire. I emphasize that there is no biblical verse affirming, or that we can use as a reference to state, that John was thrown into hot oil before being taken to the island of Patmos. What we have in this case is only the tradition of the so-called Church Fathers affirming this, nothing more. The Church Fathers were, in fact, zealous men who developed theology still used by the Church today. Many accounts and details about the deaths of the apostles were described by the Church Fathers and by Christian doctrine. Subsequently, John was exiled to the island of Patmos, where he received apocalyptic visions that are compiled and recorded in the book of Revelation in the Bible. These revelations highlight his spiritual proximity and reveal profound teachings about the future. Regarding his death, Christian tradition reports that John, despite several attempted executions by Roman authorities, died of natural causes. According to Bishop Polycarp of Ephesus, confirmed by Eusebius of Caesarea in his ecclesiastical history, the Apostle John died in Ephesus, in Asia Minor, in the year 100 after Christ, at about 94 years of age. However, it is said that his tomb was empty when it was opened by Constantine to build upon. In the maturity of his years, John, enveloped in the wisdom acquired through decades of reflection and service, became a pillar in the Christian community. His words, full of spiritual depth, guided, corrected, and encouraged the faithful. His teachings, permeated by living alongside Christ, resonated with authority and love, strengthening the roots of the emerging faith. In his final days, the beloved apostle reflected on the tapestry of history that he had witnessed, from humble beginnings on the shores of the Sea of Galilee to the complex plots in Ephesus, where the church was already struggling to maintain its identity amidst a world often hostile. In every word he wrote, in every advice he gave, John emphasized the heart of the gospel, the unconditional love of God manifested in Jesus Christ. He constantly reminded the community of the importance of remaining faithful to the truth, while urging love and unity, invoking the very request of Jesus for his followers to be one, John chapter 17, verse 21. In the visions recorded in Revelation, John offered the church a perspective of hope and triumph. Even amidst persecutions and tribulations, he pointed to the final victory of the Lamb, Jesus, over all forces of evil. These symbolic visions served as a source of encouragement for Christians throughout the centuries, reminding them that no matter how great the adversity, the final triumph belongs to God. James, brother of John. James, known as James, son of Zebedee, was present at the Transfiguration, at the resurrection of Jairus' daughter, and in the distressing agony of Jesus in Gethsemane. His close relationship with John and with Christ himself highlights his prominent position among the apostles. His importance in the Bible is evidenced by the fact that he was part of the intimate circle of the three closest apostles to Jesus, along with Peter and John. These three witnessed miracles and exclusive teachings, revealing the special trust Jesus placed in them. However, after the death of Jesus, James's trajectory had a dramatic end. In the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, it is recorded that Agrippa the tyrant of Judea, seeking to please the Jews, ordered the execution of James, the brother of John. King Herod laid hands on some of the church members to mistreat them and killed James with a sword. The narrative does not provide detailed information about the exact method of execution, but tradition suggests that James was beheaded or pierced with a sword. It is important to note that there are two apostles named James in the scriptures: James, son of Zebedee, whom we already know, and James, son of Alphaeus, also known as James the Less. His active participation in the Gospels is relatively discreet and less evident compared to other apostles. After Jesus' death, information about James, son of Alphaeus' activities becomes even more scarce. However, Christian tradition suggests that he played a role in the expansion of the gospel, possibly engaging in missionary activities. Most of Christian doctrine believes that James, son of Alphaeus, also died by the orders of King Agrippa Repine in Jerusalem, being publicly beheaded. The image of James being beheaded is often found in paintings, sculptures, and other religious objects. However, other sources, such as a first-century book after Christ called The Martyrdom of the Apostles, claim that James was thrown from the pinnacle of the Temple of Jerusalem and then stoned to death in first-century Jerusalem. News of James's death, one of the pillars of the early church, reverberated intensely through the alleys and markets. His martyrdom was not only a blow to the hearts of Jesus' followers, but also a clear sign of the growing tension between the young church and Jewish and Roman authorities. The death of James was a defining moment, a turning point that reaffirmed the seriousness and cost of the Christian mission. In the community of believers, James's loss evoked a mixture of mourning and determination. Peter and the other apostles, now more aware of the imminent danger, strengthened themselves in faith and resolved to continue the mission Jesus had entrusted to them. However, James's death was not in vain. It inspired a new wave of evangelization and testimony among Christians. The church, though persecuted, began to spread beyond the borders of Jerusalem and Judea, reaching Samaria and eventually the far reaches of the Roman Empire. Although the scriptures provide few details about his later actions, church tradition suggests that he also played a significant role in the dissemination of the faith. His silent and persistent dedication contributed to the growth and strengthening of the Christian community during a period of uncertainties and challenges. The history of the two Jameses, each with his own path and destiny, became a source of inspiration for subsequent generations of Christians. They represent the diverse call within the church, one called to a public role and a dramatic end, the other to a more silent but no less important contribution. Reflecting on the lives of the apostles James, son of Zebedee, and James the Less, we are reminded that the path of discipleship can take many forms. Each of them, in their own way, embraced the call to follow Christ, whether in the public square, bearing the executioner's sword, or in the discreet but essential shadows of faithful service. Their stories continue to echo in the memory of the church, reminding all believers that regardless of the path we follow, we are called to live and witness our faith with courage, love, and unwavering fidelity. Peter, originally known as Simon, Peter was born in Galilee. Peter was a fisherman by profession when he was called by Jesus to become a fisher of men. His name, Simon, was later changed to Peter, which means rock or stone, symbolizing the solidity of the faith he would demonstrate throughout the Gospels. Peter is portrayed as a fervent disciple, often impulsive but deeply devoted to Jesus. He witnessed miracles such as walking on water and was the first to recognize Jesus as the Christ, the Son of the living God. Peter played a central role at the Last Supper and was highlighted as the leader of the apostles. After Jesus' death, Peter embarked on a journey across the vast territory of the Roman Empire to spread the message of the gospel. Eventually, he settled in Rome, where he assumed leadership of the Christian community. His role is evident in the Acts of the Apostles, where he plays a crucial role in the expansion of the gospel, especially to the Gentiles. In the year 64 after Christ, the city of Rome was consumed by a great fire that triggered a series of events. Emperor Nero blamed the followers of Christianity for the fire and began a relentless persecution against them. Peter ended up being detained and condemned to death. Tradition also reports that Peter requested to be crucified upside down out of humility, claiming he was not worthy to die in the same manner as his master. The chosen place for his crucifixion was Vatican Hill, where today stands the majestic Basilica of St. Peter. He became one of the first martyrs of Christianity, significantly contributing to the expansion of the gospel worldwide. His death is considered a courageous and final testament to his unwavering faith in Jesus Christ. History tells us that during this persecution, many Christians were subjected to horrific tortures and executions, but the community's faith remained firm, often strengthened by the example of courage and sacrifice of leaders like Peter. As the flames of persecution burned, the Christians' faith spread even more vigorously, an unquenchable flame that defied oppression and death. Peter's decision to be crucified upside down, as narrated by tradition, was not only an act of humility, but also a powerful testimony of his devotion to Christ. His death was not the end, but a new beginning. Peter's story, marked by his failures and triumphs, became a source of inspiration and encouragement for all Christians. His journey, marked by denial and restoration, bravery and sacrifice, echoes through the centuries, reminding us that the grace and love of God are sufficient to transform and strengthen even the weakest of hearts. Judas Thaddeus. Emperor Nero also appears to have been responsible for the death of the apostle Judas Thaddeus, also known as Lebbeus Thaddeus, or Judas, son of James. Despite being one of the apostles least mentioned in the Bible, his contributions and legacy are significant. At the Last Supper, Judas Thaddeus questioned the meaning of Jesus' words, demonstrating a genuine desire to understand the mysteries of the kingdom. After Jesus' death, he continued to play an essential role in propagating the gospel, particularly in the regions of Mesopotamia and Persia. His importance in the Bible is evident in his epistles, where he is recognized as the author of a brief and powerful letter addressed to Christians. In this epistle, he exhorts believers to remain firm in faith and the practice of brotherly love. Regarding the death of Judas Thaddeus, Christian tradition diverges regarding details. One narrative suggests that he was martyred along with Simon, while another indicates he was stoned to death. Other sources claim that Judas Thaddeus was killed by being hacked with axes. Andrew, brother of Simon Peter. Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, although often in the shadow of other more prominent apostles, shared a special closeness with Jesus from the beginning of his journey as a disciple. Andrew is frequently associated with crucial moments in the Gospels, such as the multiplication of the loaves and fishes, where he presented a boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, becoming an instrument in the manifestation of divine power. His importance in the Bible is also evident in the list of the 12 apostles, where he is consistently mentioned among the first. After the death of Jesus, he continued the propagation of early Christianity. His missionary journey took him to various regions, including Scotland and Greece, where he is traditionally considered the founder of the Church of Constantinople. Regarding Andrew's death, Christian tradition suggests that he faced martyrdom by crucifixion in Patras, Greece. Before being crucified, Andrew underwent a long session of torture, being brutally whipped. However, his crucifixion has a unique aspect. He was nailed to a cross in the shape of an X, which would later be known as St. Andrew's Cross. It is believed that Andrew, like Peter, requested to be crucified in this manner because he felt unworthy to die in the same way as Jesus. His remains were found centuries later and taken to Scotland by sea after the ship wrecked. Philip, the Apostle. Originating from Bethsaida, the same city as Peter and Andrew, Philip was called by Jesus to follow him. His specific identification in the Gospels, often referred to as Philip of Bethsaida, highlights his origin and helps differentiate him from others with the same name. Philip is often associated with significant episodes in the biblical narrative. Even after Jesus' death, Philip continues to play a crucial role in propagating the gospel. His missionary journey takes him to various regions, including Samaria, where he performs miracles and baptizes many in the name of Jesus. The New Testament does not provide substantial information about the Apostle Philip's death. Information about his death is based mainly on church traditions, and there is no clear consensus on the details. The accounts state that Philip died crucified and stoned in Hierapolis, Asia Minor, in the year 80 after Christ, during the persecution of Christians by Roman Emperor Domitian. Simon the Zealot. Simon, known as Simon the Zealot, is one of the apostles whose story in the Bible is marked by a unique identity and fervent commitment to his principles. Little is known about Simon's life before his calling by Jesus. His designation as Zealot suggests a possible association with the political religious group of the Zealots, known for their fervent dedication to the independence of Israel. This affiliation implies a fervent nationalist zeal before his encounter with Jesus. The details about the death of Simon the Zealot are scarce in the scriptures. Most accounts state that Simon was brutally tortured. His body was flayed and cut in half during the persecution of Christians by Roman Emperor Trajan. Bartholomew the Apostle. Bartholomew was one of the 12 apostles chosen by Jesus. His initial encounter with Jesus is described in the Gospel of John, where Philip introduces him to Jesus, and Jesus greets him as a man without deceit. After Jesus' death, the Apostle Bartholomew traveled to India to preach the gospel. He was successful in converting many people to Christianity, which drew the attention of King Astyages, a pagan furious with Bartholomew's preaching. He ordered his imprisonment and execution. Regarding Bartholomew's death, historical information is limited, and Christian tradition offers various narratives. One states that Bartholomew faced martyrdom, while Orthodox Christian tradition has a peculiar narrative about his death. According to this tradition, in the year 51, Bartholomew was flayed alive before being crucified upside down for his refusal to renounce his faith in Christ. His skin was publicly displayed as a warning to other Christians. Matthew, the Apostle and Evangelist. Matthew, the Apostle and Evangelist, before his calling by Jesus, was known as Levi, a tax collector in Capernaum. His profession placed him in a position often despised by society, but his life changed drastically when Jesus called him to follow him. His most enduring contribution was the written record of his testimony in the form of the Gospel, which became a fundamental part of the New Testament. According to ancient Christian traditions, Matthew continued to preach the Gospel after Jesus' ascension. The accounts suggest that he preached in various regions, including Ethiopia and Persia, now Iran. Death, there are several narratives. However, the most widespread tradition states that Matthew was martyred in the city of Nadab, located in Ethiopia, while celebrating Mass. He was killed by the sword, his life being a testament to his faith in Jesus Christ. The story of Matthew is a reminder that God calls everyone, regardless of their past or social position, to participate in his redemptive work in the world. Thomas, also known as Thomas Didymus or Thomas the Twin. Thomas, also known as Thomas Didymus or Thomas the Twin, is one of the 12 apostles chosen by Jesus. Originally a fisherman in Galilee, Thomas gained prominence in the Gospels for his sincerity and sometimes hesitation in believing in extraordinary events. After Jesus' death, Thomas expressed doubts about the resurrection and declared that he would only believe after touching Jesus' wounds. This skepticism earned him the epithet Thomas the Unbeliever. Subsequently, Thomas's encounter with Jesus, where he is invited to touch the wounds and in his confession of faith proclaims, "My Lord and my God," highlights not only Jesus' mercy, but also the importance of overcoming doubts and finding deep faith. Christian traditions suggest that he engaged in missions in India, spreading the message of the gospel. According to this narrative, Thomas was martyred by spears in Chennai, India, after a successful evangelizing mission. Finally, Judas Iscariot, a name that echoes through the centuries as a synonym for betrayal, is a prominent figure in the Gospels as the apostle who handed Jesus over to the religious authorities. Judas was a native of the city of Kerioth, which gave him the surname Iscariot. His selection as one of the 12 apostles indicates that he initially shared the common calling and purpose with other followers of Christ. Satan entered Judas, leading him to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. He then identified Jesus to the religious leaders with a kiss, signaling whom should be arrested. Christian tradition often highlights Judas's tragic end as a reminder of the seriousness of betrayal, but it also sheds light on the tension between human free will and the divine plan. His death by hanging, according to the accounts, occurred in a field known as the Field of Blood, or the Potter's Field. This area was acquired with the 30 pieces of silver that Judas had returned, located near the Valley of Hinnom in Jerusalem. The field was originally an empty lot, intended for the burial of foreigners and criminals who died in the city. Named the Field of Blood, the name evokes the blood of Jesus, which, according to the narrative, was shed as part of Judas's betrayal. In addition to its symbolism linked to betrayal, the death of Judas Iscariot is reported in the New Testament, specifically in the Gospels of Matthew and the Acts of the Apostles. The narratives differ slightly in details, but converge on the same tragic end. According to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 27, verses 3 to 5, after Judas betrayed Jesus, he repented and tried to return the 30 pieces of silver to the religious leaders. However, they refused the money, feeling consumed by remorse. Judas threw the coins into the temple, left, and hanged himself. This sad conclusion is marked by deep remorse and despair, making Judas's story a solemn reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the weight of regret without hope and forgiveness. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel, leave your like,